Last time, Vokar reappeared in a funny suit and kidnapped What? That wasn't Vokar? These guys with silver skin all look alike. Does that make me a racist? Somehow, General Kirk decided the guy was a time traveler from the future, and Ray found something.
Look.
What?
Looks like one of our data cards. Only it's made of metal, a metal I've never seen before.
Ray, do you think our computer can handle this?
Let's try it.
Because through all of time on all worlds, that's the only way anybody ever came up with to store data. The computer spits out a strip of paper and Ray says they look like coordinates of some kind.
Suppose we try switching Tony and Doug to these coordinates.
Oh, that would be too risky.
Are you suggesting we do nothing?
Wouldn't it be a good idea to make sure they are coordinates first? Not to mention, assuming they are, find out where they are? Ray offers several other warnings, but for some reason the General has his mind made up and won't listen to anything else. Like reason. Either of you fellas know how to operate a TARDIS?
Pardon me, sir. What century are we in?
You were transferred out of your time, too.
You are Roman, aren't you? Can you hear me?
Look, he can't. He can't see or hear.
We'll learn he also doesn't have a pulse, nor does anybody else who's wandering around in here, and there are a few of them. The disembodied voice of Michael Ansara tells them these are all major figures from history. The Roman guy is Cicero, or at least he was. They're all zombies now. The tunnel has a good lock on them and is seeing everything they're seeing. Ray has also narrowed down where they are.
Another planet?
Clear out of our solar system.
But you've got a fix.
And a fairly good one.
What about Anne?
No sign of her yet.
And they don't know they're supposed to be looking for her.
If she's there's a chance they'll find her.
Even so, can we retrieve them?
If this fix remains stable, yes. But first, they've got to find her.
No, first you've got to get a message to them and tell them they've got to find her. Then they've got to find her.
Dr. Anthony Newman. Dr. Douglas Phillips.
What's that?
That would be your name. You learned it last week, remember?
You will follow the lights. Follow the light at once.
If it ever starts moving, we will. We can't follow it when it isn't going anywhere. They're in the Earth year 8433, General Kirk confirms it back in the tunnel. Centuries earlier, a plague of interplanetary insects destroyed all fabrics and fibers on the planet. Only silver mylar remains. As a tribute to its versatility, we also wear it on our faces.
They're in the planetary system of the star Canopus.
Canopus. That's approximately 100 light years away.
It's actually 98.
Actually, it's 310 light years away. It's roughly 92 parsecs away, but a parsec is a very different unit of measurement than a light year.
Look, I don't know where we are or how we're going to get out of here, but we've got to try.
And then what? Suppose you do get out, and suppose you're on Earth as you assume you are. You're 6,000 years in the future. Where do you propose to go, and what do you propose to do?
That way!
It doesn't matter how they get caught or what punishment they get, that was worth it. They chase around some more until the voice finally says, "Surrender unless you want harm to come to her." They say, "Her who?"
Throw down your weapons.
Now they know why the tunnel brought them here. She barely recognizes them. These guys have drugged her and done who knows what else. The question I'm not hearing anybody ask is why? What do they want with her? The voice orders her released and she falls into their arms. They're all together. We have the fix and the power. It's time to get them out of there. And now the General is going to do the stupidest thing I have ever seen him do.
Anne! Doug, Tony!
General! Have you got us located?
Yes, stand by. We'll have you out of there in 30 seconds. Maintain your present position. Don't move.
Let her go.
General, now!
Why are you doing that? You're warning the bad guys, you nincompoop. That's why they're pulling Anne away, so if the boys do switch, she won't go with them. This was so unnecessary, reckless, and dim-witted, I cannot believe General Kirk would do it. The episode already lost me back when we introduced Michael Ansara. When he didn't have Doug and Tony duel with Volta blades with the winner to face Kurt Russell, I knew we'd blown it. But this is just too much. The time for a message was when they first arrived, telling them they need to find Anne and all the rest. This move was like Churchill calling Hitler the day before Operation Overlord and telling him what's going to happen. Thing is, those future dudes know just what to do about it.
One step toward any person in this complex and you'll be shot.
You talk too much, General. The instant he appeared, you should have just said fire. Then he lets the guy walk clear across the room before he actually says fire. The bullets don't do anything to him. He takes a vital component from the machinery and disappears. We're done with the first act and we still don't know what Michael Ansara wants. We don't even know his character name. He's messing with Anne's head and he puts historical figures into what he calls suspension. Why? What does he get from it and what does he want from Anne? The boys are demanding the seers, so maybe we'll finally get some answers. You just love stealing the show, don't you?
I've just put her through a preliminary interrogation.
About what?
Oh, John. Oh, John. Oh, what happened? Where are we?
You're all right.
Yeah, for the time being.
Oh, John.
Why are you all so apprehensive? I planned nothing shocking or horrible for you.
You answered your own question. You planned something for them that apparently they didn't get to have any say in. That's the problem.
Suspension is nothing to be afraid of.
I'm sure it isn't, as long as you're doing it to someone else. He takes them to the chamber where their time machine is, just as their traveler returns. His name is Official Time Traveler, or OT for short, because they dig Earth so much they use our language right down to the abbreviations. He has something for the boss.
Mission completed.
Where did you get that?
This is the correct part. That's all, thank you.
Since it looks like part of a condenser unit from an air conditioner, I'm guessing it's a vital part of the tunnel's cooling system.
That's a space-time converter.
From our complex.
Or it could be that.
The tunnel is useless without it.
Which is precisely why I sent for it. Now that you're here, I don't want your tunnel taking you back before I'm through with you.
What are you going to do now?
Probably kill us.
By no means. I must have you alive. I need you for my project.
And just what is this project of yours?
Later.
They have a spare, but it'll take upwards of 10 days to get it put in and calibrated correctly. Our time travelers don't have that long. While they're stewing in their quarters, someone comes in with 3 little cubes on a plate.
By now, you have received your dinner. I hope you enjoy it.
Dinner.
Where did that come from?
He talks through walls.
Not through the walls, Dr. Newman, through space. I can receive your voice communication over any distance.
In other words, he's listening in all the time. Those little cubes are their nourishment.
I apologize for the form. On this planet, we have no organic food. These nutrient cubes are made expressly for our guests.
They don't eat. They're like plants. They draw their nourishment from the sun.
Not from the sunlight, of course. Our star is Canopus, not Sol. Instead of sunlight, it is Canopian light.
They call their own star by its Earth designation. I'm starting to think these guys have a fetish.
What do you think?
We'll take them.
Tony, how do we know what's in them?
We don't. But we do know he can hear us.
Doug's already caught on. Anne is a little slower on the uptake, but considering the day she's had, I think we can forgive her.
Anne, trust me. They don't taste too bad.
All right, I'll take mine then.
Now, that wasn't so bad, was it?
A very wise decision. Now please come to my office at once.
Again, Anne's had a rough day, so we can go easy on her. They have no intention of going to What's-His-Noodle's office. Using scribbled notes and hand signals, they decide to head for the time machine to see if they can figure it out. They won't get there. Ott catches them and takes them to the boss. It's time to learn what his project is.
We've just extracted from him the sum total of his personality. His memory, his knowledge, his motivations, everything.
And that's your project?
We are gathering for the first time the full and complete data on every phase of the history of the planet Earth.
Why? More specifically to my mind, why Earth? Looking at your society and technology, I would think there's lots more interesting places than here. He really does have an Earth fetish.
We've just completed our work on the subject. We now have comprehensive information on the psychology of tyrants. Fascinating. You might even recognize the subject. He was retrieved from a bunker in Berlin an instant before he attempted suicide.
Then who was that body they found that matched his dental records exactly? He wants Doug and Tony because as the first Earthlings to travel in time, they'll have some primo information. And what about Anne? She was bait to bring Doug and Tony here. That's got to make her feel special. But he won't send her back because she might be useful someday. Dude, if you want to know about the psychology of a tyrant, look in the mirror. Sometime after this, he actually tried that. His face was so reflective, it got that two-mirror effect, and our friend lost his mind trying to find himself in it.
But I'm afraid right now we've run out of time. Nothing more can be done till morning. You should be feeling quite drowsy at this time.
Why?
The cubes. They're drugs.
He says, in the morning, you'll still be asleep when we process you, so you won't feel a thing.
What happens to you at nightfall?
Why, we rest naturally.
Well, you told us that you get your nourishment and energy from the sun.
No, not the sun. Canopus. But come to the point, time is short.
Well, then you're like plants. When it gets dark, you go dormant.
He says, yes, so what? You'll be asleep too, so it doesn't matter.
You were dishonest with me.
Yes, and you were dishonest with us.
But that's different. This is me. Before he can tell them where the space-time converter he stole is and how to use their time machine, everybody in the place goes catatonic. Take the guns. That way, if your search takes too long and they do wake up, you're in charge. Ott seems to have his own energy source so he can keep moving in the absence of light from whatever star his travels take him to. Our heroes don't know that. And remember that metal data card he dropped back in the time tunnel? There's a whole bunch of those around the time machine, so they probably control it and tell it where it's going. If Anne can find the right one and the instructions for using the machine, she can get back, hopefully with their missing part.
He waved his hand, obviously interrupting a beam somewhere.
It's easier if you're 6'2" like Michael Ansara. They discover that Ott is wandering around, so they have to be quiet and quick, and they really need that part. But it's going to be a lot more difficult because Ott has discovered they're not dormant. Now he's looking for them. Anne found the card with the coordinates to the time tunnel and the one that tells how to work the machine. Now they just need to find the converter or there's not much point in her going back.
No, wait. The medallion. Get the medallion he's wearing.
What for?
It's a weapon.
A weapon? How do you know?
Ott used it when he kidnapped me. Killed one of our guards.
Is that the same one or does Ott have another one?
Are you searching for this?
That answers that question. And was the converter really right there in plain sight the whole time? He has to have opened a panel or something, but we didn't get to see it thanks to editors who have also given up. Instead, our protagonists look like the most oblivious people on this Canopian planet.
Is it getting light? Or is it my imagination?
He ought to have been more careful. Now Doug and Tony have both weapons, Anne has the converter, and she's ready to go. Just in time, it really is getting light. Okay, push it and go.
Tony, look out. You make one move and you're a dead man. Freeze! Put your weapons on the table.
and should be gone by now. Why hasn't she pushed the button?
All right. Now back away. Come on. All right, Tony. Let's get out of here. Hurry, Ann. Press it.
Push the bloomin' button, lady. She waited to push it until that guy shot it with his stun gun or whatever it was, and the whole thing exploded. Doug and Tony won't be using that machine to go anywhere. Ann is back in the tunnel complex and the converter is in place. Time to get our boys out of there.
Mobilize her quickly. That one first. Don't let him use a weapon.
Never mind. Just that quickly, his dreams of glory are silenced forever. And what was it all for? He told them being sucked out of their bodies and stored in his machine was a form of practical immortality and they should be pleased. Except they didn't ask to be immortal or any of the rest. And why was he taking them now? He said they grabbed Hitler out of his bunker right before he shot himself, so that sets at least a small precedent for the idea that they grabbed these people at the end of their lives. I couldn't tell you about Cicero, but one of the other people he grabbed was Erasmus, and I can tell you about him. Doug and Tony called him the humanist theologian, and with a very different definition of humanist than we have today, that's true. But he's best known for creating the first ever printed edition of the New Testament in the original Greek language. Before him, there were only handwritten copies. They were expensive, and there weren't very many of them. Now, for the first time, any educated person with a little money could read the original text for himself instead of depending on a Latin translation plus the church's interpretation thereof. And here's a nice little tidbit for you. Erasmus publishes his Greek Testament in 1516. Luther posts his 95 Theses and the European Reformation begins in 1517. Coincidence? You be the judge. Sorry, as I've said before, Erasmus is one of my personal heroes. It was my nickname in Bible college, actually. Erasmus Q. Washburn spent 3 years in that place, didn't even come out with a degree. Did come out with a wife, though. Okay, self-quarantine may be getting to me a little. My point is, we have eyewitness record of Erasmus's last words, we have his death mask, and we know where his body is buried and could go find it if we wanted to. The guy who portrayed him looked about the age Erasmus was when he died. So when did they snatch him? And who's buried in his tomb? One of their guys? I can see an archaeologist 1,000 years from now open it up, stare and say, "Why is this guy all silver?" That may be the longest description of a plot hole I've ever done, but it's a big hole. Hitler's body did not disappear from the bunker. Erasmus's body didn't disappear from his deathbed. Cicero's body didn't disappear from wherever it was when these guys supposedly removed it. It would have been a simple matter to add a line and say, once we have extracted what we need, they are returned whence they were taken and no one is the wiser. See how easy that is? And why it doesn't make sense that he wants Doug and Tony now, while they're barely 30 and still in the midst of their time-traveling adventures? We're getting toward the end of the season, and there's still a chance for a second one. We did not need a misfire like this one. The history-based stories like the Titanic, the Alamo, and the others are what made the show popular, and I think somebody's forgotten that. We seem to be developing a thing for aliens and other weirdness.
Whoever he is, he's got company. Who are you? What are you doing here?
What we are does not matter. We are here to destroy you.
I rest my case. Well, hello, baby girl. How are you? How's my baby?